Welcome everyone, and welcome to the first virtual State of the Ports event that we're doing. We have a long history of doing the State of the Ports. The World Trade Center Miami started the program like in the 1980s, and we stopped doing it around 2014 or 2015, and we just resurrected it again with the help of Bill Johnson. And I am Ivan Barrios. I am president and CEO of the World Trade Center Miami, and I'm excited for this program that we have. This is our last program for the America's Food and Beverage Show, and I'm going to hand it off to the chairman of the World Trade Center Miami, Roberto Munoz. And Roberto is a well-known banker here in Miami, and we've had the pleasure of having Roberto as our chair for the last 2 years. And we only have about, 6 more weeks, Roberto, together?
6 more weeks, and we have a lot of work still to do.
Yes, well, thank you. Now, Roberto, I'm going to hand the program off to you.
Thank you very much, Ivan. I appreciate that. And I want to tell you that I'm very excited today because the World Trade Center historically has brought the State of the Ports to Miami. And today we have 3 excellent individuals that know Miami so well and have worked so hard to build this city into what it is today, the global port that we are, the world-renowned name that we have. You can travel almost anywhere in the world, say the name Miami, and it resonates anywhere. It's a most amazing thing. And it's because of the hard work of the individuals like Bill, Lester, and Juan that have worked hard. I'll tell you that I've been in Miami since 1956. And I will tell you that my dad, who worked for Pan American Airways, was an airport manager at the International Airport in 1954 and all the way through about 1960. But Miami as a whole is a city that has garnered great strength. Our economy is now $150 billion, give or take. The pandemic has had some effect, but in general, our trade and logistics is intact. As we see the world trade and logistic changes occurring, Miami stands to benefit greatly, and greatly because our airport is so well run and our port is so well run that we're able to take advantage of the dynamics that are occurring. Whether it's transportation, freezer container, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's a deep port Panamex container with 23,000 containers, 23,000 containers on one ship. You can't imagine that size mentally, but it's huge. So today I want to thank you. The World Trade Center is very pleased to be here. Please stay tuned. We are opening our new location in Blue Lagoon. We'll have our name on the building, and as a matter of fact, it's already on our building in the Blue Lagoon area across the street from the Miami International Airport. And that's a great space for me. And I want to thank our board, very active board, for all the work they do. Without further ado, I want to thank you, and Roberto Munoz here. I'll do some closing remarks at the end of this. And Bill, thank you so much. You're such a great leader. We are all very happy with you and what you do. Lester, Juan, keep our city moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. Definitely appreciate your involvement in the World Trade Center Miami and the leadership you provided over the last 2 years. The organization continues to make great progress. When I was director at Port Miami for 8 years, I served on the board actually as the chairman of the World Trade Center Miami for almost 5 years. So it's an organization that does a lot of good things and has great importance to our community and really to the entire state. My thanks to both Lester and to Juan. I appreciate both gentlemen for agreeing to bring back this event. Our objective through the World Trade Center Miami is to make this an annual luncheon starting next year in 2021. It was always fun. I can tell you for the 8 years that I was at Port Miami, during that time, the aviation director, my good friend Jose Abreu, and I had great fun updating the community annually at this State of the Port luncheon. So it's extremely important that we as a community here in the greater Miami area continue to network and continue to be, if you will, advised and updated on the progress of both of these 2 important economic engines. I think everyone on the call recognizes that both Miami International and our general aviation airports, as well as Port of Miami, are the 2 leading economic engines in our community and really in the state. They're extremely significant in terms of generation of wealth and generation of jobs. For the couple of years that I served as the president, CEO of Enterprise Florida and the Secretary of Commerce for the state under Governor Scott, I can tell you I had the great opportunity to travel our state, travel the world actually, in promoting economic development in the state. And the role that our airports in Florida and the ports play is just instrumental. So again, my deep appreciation to both guys, Juan and Lester. I will, as I introduce each one, would also say this: I've known Juan for a good 33 plus years. I've been in Miami now 41 years, but I've known Juan really almost his entire tenure since he's been in public service. I had the great opportunity not only to know him, but also to work alongside him, both in the executive office for many years, and then of course at Port Miami. Lester and I go back a good, at this point, 27 years. And so I'm extremely proud that we, our community, have two incredible professional, ethical, competent people at the helm of these important economic engines. With that said, I'm going to kick it off. I'm just going to pull on and let Port of Miami, let Juan Carrilla kick it off. And Juan, if you'd like to update us, they're going to speak for a few minutes, each of them, and then we're going to do sort of some questions. If you have questions, you can actually type those in, and Ivan and Alice will actually get the questions, and we'll try to reserve some time at the end for Q&A at the end. But anyways, go ahead, Juan. Let's have you kick off, okay?
You bet. Roberto, thank you very much. Really, Port Miami enjoys working with you and the entire World Trade Center board. Bill, there's no words to describe Bill. There really are no words to describe Bill Johnson. And he was once said by one of our shipping lines, by an executive, former chair of the World Trade Center, Jose Perez Jones, one time when we traveled with Bill, and Bill, we went to Chile and Brazil. And after the trip, Jose Perez Jones labeled Bill as our leader, our preacher, our brother, our healer, all of the above, but most of all, our real friend. So Bill, thank you for putting this together along with Roberto and the World Trade Center board. And I definitely want to give a hello, a shout out to Virginia Sanchez, the incoming chair. You talk about somebody with incredible class, leadership skills, and just a great person all around. Virginia Sanchez is just that. Known Virginia for many years, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give a great hello to Lester Sola, my partner in crime, one of my dear friends, best friends in the history of our lives, I would say, right? So thanks to all of you. Port Miami, what's going on in Port Miami? So I'll talk a little bit before March of 2020, what was going on in Port Miami, and then I'll take it from there through today, and then play Walter Mercado here with a crystal ball, and then try to see where we go from now through the next year. But before 2020, before March of 2020, the Port of Miami had hit record volumes all the way through the pandemic, both on cruise and cargo. And again, a lot of what we were doing was just following the playbook that some guy that was here before called Bill Johnson created. So it was very easy for us. We just kept on turning the page on the playbook. And we went ahead and we entered into very long-term deals with MSC, an MOU with Virgin, more deals with Carnival, a fantastic PPP with the with Royal Caribbean, and we just kept on growing and landing close to $5 billion worth of guaranteed revenues over the term of these deals. On the cargo side, in order to make these cruise deals happen, we had to get some land back from the cargo operators so that we can build terminals on the northeast side of the port. We did that. We went to the board in September 2019 and got approval to implement all of those ideas and all of those concepts and all of that growth that we had lined up and thought of here at the port. And again, many of these things were discussed with Bill when Bill was director. You know, credit where credit is due. Absolutely. So here we were doing incredibly well, growing our reserves over the last 5, 6 years to a number that we had not anticipated, really, going back 10 years. Things went really, really well. Now, the pandemic comes, and we all know what happened. We saw a total stop on the cruise business. We saw a substantial decline on the cargo business during March, April, and May. And in here we were halfway into the fiscal year, knowing that we were going to be down around $55 million of cruise revenues out of a total operating budget of about $200 million. But I have to tell you, I want to recognize, with your indulgence, Bill and Roberto, I want to recognize the Port Miami team. Top notch. I can tell you that I know there are other ports throughout the state, throughout the nation that would love to have some of our senior managers, some of our executives here, and we just don't let that happen. We don't want to let that happen, right? Because of that team, we implemented immediately cost-saving measures, expense reductions, i.e. freezing vacancies, suspending all overtime, suspending all marketing expenditure, suspending all sponsorship, which we hated to do. We are part of the World Trade Center. We are part of the Beacon Council. We are part of the Convention Bureau. We like to sponsor the Miami-Dade Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, you name it, we like to be there. So we've kept our presence, but we've had to cut back on our sponsorship. We're hoping that comes back as soon as cruising resumes. So we went through a lot of budget reductions. We are taking advantage of the very, very comfortable rates on the variable debt. And to give you an example, we had budgeted 3.5%, 3% on some of our debt, on some of our variable, and we're paying 0.3 or 1%. That is realizing a tremendous amount of savings year in and year out that is somewhat mitigating for the cruise revenue shortfalls. So I'll talk a little bit about cargo. Cargo did very badly March, April, May, started seeing a nice comeback in June, primarily from Asia and Europe. Latin America has continued to suffer through September. Why? A lot of those factories where we import products from Latin America, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, a lot of the Seaboard lines. And by the way, Seaboard Marine, a great sponsor of the World Trade Center. Thank you, Seaboard Marine, our number one client in terms of shipping here at Port Miami. But a lot of the factories shut down, thus the imports went nowhere. And those economies contracted significantly also as a result of COVID. So the consumption in these areas went down. Seaboard Marine also does a lot of work in the Caribbean. The Caribbean tourism industry collapsed, partially as a result of the cruise industry also coming to a stop. So the cargo has started to come back. August was a very decent month. September was very good also. I think we're going to have an incredible October once we release the numbers on November 23rd for October. But year over year, at year end of fiscal 20, that finished September 30, 2020, we were only 4.8% down. And I think that is a significant achievement considering the economic conditions worldwide, considering that some countries have not yet totally opened. And again, kudos to our incredible cargo development team and Eric Olafson, who does an incredible job. And Billy, you might get a good crack at this. Eric was recognized by the General Commerce on a phone call by Hugh Morley as the most visible man in the industry, on the cargo shipping industry. So I think those efforts have resulted in us only losing a 4.8% share or our volume, I should say. And but I tell you, I can't wait to November 23rd to put out the numbers for October of this year. I think they're going to be fantastic. Our capital projects have continued. We have delayed only some non-essential projects, some non-revenue generating projects, some non-contractually obligated projects, but every contractually obligated project, which are revenue generators for this port and this community, have continued. I'll be remiss if I didn't mention the incredible, unwavering support of our mayor, the unwavering support of our Board of County Commissioners, who have approved every single item unanimously when it has come to progress at the port, investing in the port, reinvesting at the port. And here we are with some major projects on their way for completion this year, November of 2021 and November of 22. And more to come for 23 and 24, which I'd love to discuss later. I definitely do not want to take more time from all of you. But once again, really, thank you.
Juan, I want to again thank you for the update. You know, in these troubled times, these difficult times, one of the reasons we wanted to bring back this event was to have some good news. And there is, even in the days of COVID-19, good news in terms of our airport, seaport, and really coming back, getting the economy to come back. I'd also like to follow up on Juan's point. I would tell you, I spent 35 years inside the county government before I joined Governor Scott. And I will tell you that I still love the staff at the Port of Miami and Miami International. I know the staff. I mean, I can't go to the airport to have coffee with Lester without seeing some of the security guards, and the same thing at the Port of Miami. I can't go to Home Depot without standing in line and someone said, "Hey, I work for you at the Port of Miami," or I mean, wonderful, dedicated public servants, public employees, whether they're people working in maintenance or housekeeping, on and on and on and on. And Eric, it was a good hire. So I know Eric Olson's listening. We brought you down from Washington years back. But Juan is clearly blessed with a wonderful, competent team, with a great deputy director in Heidi Webb, but a great staff. His assistant director, who I brought into the county back in 1992, Elizabeth Ogden. She's the assistant director for the capital program. So it's just a wonderful team. Lester, in turn, and we're turning it over to you now, Lester, is equally blessed. He has a great professional team as well. His staff is slightly larger. I think it's about probably 3 times Lester in size and number of staff. I don't know where that is today, probably 1,600 or so, but does an equally great job. And so we're going to turn it over now to Lester Sola at Miami International, who oversees our great airport and our general aviation airports. Lester?
Thank you, Bill. And for me, it's really a pleasure and an honor, and Roberto, obviously, to be part of this event. A little different than what it's been in the past. I mean, I still remember working for Bill during one of my rotations of working for him and attending the lavish events at the Radisson Mart. They always kept changing name, and the airport and the seaport, I've always had a wonderful relationship, but there was always a competition as to who had a flashier presentation. And historically, the airport did very well. That's just, I'm just from an observer. And then when Bill Johnson became the seaport director, Bill was not going to be outdone. And the last presentation that I went was just videos and flash and lights. It was like watching a world premiere of an incredible movie. So, Bill, the truth of the matter is that you could do this presentation by yourself, right? So, I mean, as somebody who's been in county government for 35 years, Juan and I can probably continue and do our jobs today and probably run the airport from the seaport, and you can do this entire presentation by yourself because you've run the airport, you've run the seaport, and many other things that have really have developed in this county, whether it be the arena like you mentioned or the performing arts center. These are all things that we all worked alongside you and saw you build out. So for me, it really is a pleasure to not just to speak to the panel, but everyone who's listening, and really speak about how the 2 economic engines, right? The 2 primary economic engines of this community are doing, right? So, and for us, I have to tell you, I have to respect the fact that Juan did not bring out any stats, but sometimes when you look at the numbers, as far as who's the number one economic engine, it's he points to the port, but when you look at the numbers, there is no question that the airport and the seaport are number one and number two in that order. So we take great pride in making sure that the health of this airport and the seaport are in good hands, and while we have fun, God knows we really do, and we're constantly going out there and generating business for the benefit of this community. The truth of the matter is that we're always laughing because we're genuinely having fun doing it. Even through these difficult times, we enjoy what we do. And the airport is, if you ask me what the state of the port is for the airport, I would tell you that we had a great 2019. We had a great start to 2020. We all know what happened in February and March. At one point, we had 3,500 passengers at this airport. Okay. Now, just to put things in perspective, historically, average about 110 to 115,000. So imagine going from that number to 3,500 passengers in the March-April timeframe. But since then, the numbers are going up, and they're going up exponentially, quite frankly, as a result of the commitment that companies, airlines have made into flying into MIA. And I would be remiss if I don't recognize our number one premier airline that basically is a huge operation here at this airport, responsible for thousands and thousands of jobs. American Airlines. American Airlines never stopped flying into MIA and continuously adjusted their schedules with constant communication between them and us to make sure that we continue to operate it and to serve really our residents, our visitors, and our customers. So last year, record year, 46 million passengers, 1 million more passengers than the previous year, 1 million more than the prior year. So we were growing by 1 million passengers a year. And you'll recall that as a result of that growth, we went to the Board of County Commissioners. We got the support of our mayor, the mayor of our board, the report and the support of the airlines, really, who are our business partners, who help us pay the bills here, and got approval for what was the future of this airport. And we knew that the airport needed about $5 billion worth of infrastructure investment in order to be able to keep up with that demand. And we got that approval. And I'll speak a little bit about what we've done since then as a result of the pandemic. But the truth of the matter is that we have come out of this very well. We're headed in the right direction. And we're headed in the right direction because of the measures that the airport has taken, the staff. We're blessed to have exceptional staff that helps us every single day in carrying out that mission, as well as the partnership with all of our airlines here. And it's really one about communication, education, and delivering a message to everyone of how travel has changed. And this airline, this industry has had to adapt many a times, not just as a result of September 11th, but other incidents that have occurred that we have had to adapt of how we operate our business. And the airline industry has done so, right? So whether it be the requirement of facial coverings, or we have disinfectants all over the airport, social distancing, these are all measures that we are taking, as well as educating our passengers, because oftentimes you would hear things like, well, it's research, it's the same air that I'm breathing in an airplane. It's the same air. And those are things really that were baseless, that we had to partner with the airlines and continuously educate and deliver the same message over and over again, that being in an airplane is in fact safe, that the air that you're breathing is in fact clean, and that it's not the same air over and over again. It's not recycled air. So the majority of that air is fresh air every couple of minutes. So we have adapted well. So we're taking measures to protect that growth that we're experiencing now. Because we want to make sure that the confidence of our passengers is not diminished as a result of non-compliance, non-conformance, and not delivering a clear message out there. Even during this downturn, if you want to call it that, we've had, in addition to our legacy carriers who have always been here and are true partners, and I'm glad to hear that Virginia Sanchez is obviously going to be taking the lead. It's partnerships with these airlines that call Miami home that makes us a success. Because without that partnership, And I tell people all the time, without the airlines, there's no airport. Without the airport, there's no concessions, and everything is dominant. We're all attached together. So we have to make sure that we continuously work together so that we continue to generate growth. Yes, there's other airlines that fly into MIA. At one point, we had 107. We're now around the 35 number, right? So that number continues to grow, and it will continue to grow well into the future as more and more airlines establish, right? We know that Southwest has announced, and which is obviously something completely new for us. We're not accustomed to having Southwest, but we're certainly glad they're here. The legacies, Eastern Airlines, still flying here. So we have the legacies as well as new airlines announcing flights into MIA and new routes. In fact, as a result of Senator Soto and a couple of the trade missions that we've gone down to South America, there's a new flight now into Asunción, Paraguay, right? So something that they've never been serviced before. So even during this downturn, our existing airlines and the new airlines are expanding the footprint to where you can travel. Yes, we are and will continue to be the gateways to the Americas into the Caribbean. Yes, the leveraging of cargo in partnership with my good friend Juan Corrilla, the cargo operations are a significant component of the success of routes for some of these flights going into South America and the Caribbean. And with either movement of electronics on the way down and on the return, bringing back perishables. We recognize our geographic location and have taken measures to not just sit on our laurels of our successes, but we're constantly going out there and pursuing new routes. And that's why Juan and I constantly are traveling with either Senator Soto, you, other delegations, the chamber, right? We're constantly out there in a partnership trying to generate more business for this community. So as regards to capital, right? Oftentimes, well, the pandemic hit, what are you doing with regards to what is the financial health of the airport? And no surprise, no secret that the federal government did give us $207 million to get through the operation of the pandemic. Welcome, obviously welcome monies, very thankful for that. But even without those monies, the financial health of the airport was in great shape. We had significant reserves. We haven't really had to touch those reserves very much, but we've taken measures like Juan has done to reduce your expenses. Why? Because we're partners with the airlines, and we want to make sure that we keep our costs down, keep the cost of operating and running this airport down, so that ultimately the cost to fly here, to call this place a hub for you or a destination or origin, is well worth your while. So in addition to those steps, we've also have had to change the CIP a little bit. Yes, we know that we still need $5 billion worth of work, but we've accelerated some projects that would have been more disruptive when the airlines were fully operational. So we've moved those projects up. We've deferred other projects, recognizing that the full recovery may take another year to year and a half. So we bought ourselves some time. So we're building smart. We're still going to continue to invest in this airport, but we do it as a team. And in fact, a lot of my goal has been, every time we're making a big decision, we like to bring in our airlines, our partners, into the decision making to hear what their concerns are, hear what their opinions are, their guidance, and then ultimately we'll make a decision, right? Because that's what we get paid to do. That's what we're hired to do. But you want to make sure that you bring in all of your stakeholders. So in short, I will tell you that yes, we've weathered a significant storm, but as a result of the actions that we have taken historically, we have weathered it well. And I know full well that the airport and the seaport are going to come out of this better than what we were at the beginning.
Thank you very much for the update, Lester. Certainly appreciate it. And before we move on, I really want to acknowledge and to express our appreciation from the World Trade Center Miami to our sponsors. Without sponsorships, you really can't move forward. So I want to thank AECOM, they're a sponsor, Coastal Construction, our good friend Chris Hodgkins from Miami Access Tunnel, which is, of course, the tunnel to the Port of Miami, Miami International Airport, the Port of Miami, and of course, our own Sandler, Travis, and Rosenberg, the law firm that's involved in everything trade and logistics. I want to thank all the sponsors. I also want to, not on the discussion today, but we're going to have to somehow bring them into the fold. When you talk infrastructure, because that's extremely important, trade and logistics can't really progress and grow unless you have modern infrastructure. And that's what both the Port, Miami International and Port Miami are both focused on, improving and building, if you will, the ability to move people, goods, and product through their respective institutions. But we also, I'd like to acknowledge another young man that I've worked with for a good 26 years, who heads up Miami-Dade Water, Kevin Linsky. I ran water and sewer for just about a year before stepping into Enterprise Florida. And I was followed, if you will, by Lester Sola. Lester ran Miami-Dade Water Sewer for about 4 years, Lester, just about 4 years before he became airport director. So there's we sort of like changed seats around here. One, you haven't done water and sewer yet. But anyways, Kevin Linsky does a great job. He's got a massive $7 billion infrastructure program. And we say, why is that important? Well, as a community, we cannot continue to grow unless we have the right, if you will, water and sewage systems. And they're hard at work trying to, he is, and his fine team, and I know that team as well, to help clean up Biscayne Bay and our canals and make sure that, our water and our sewer systems are working correctly. And through the World Trade Center Miami, we got to somehow get them engaged. And I will do through my other hat. I still serve as our pro bono president of the World Strategic Forum. That comes up in person at the Biltmore next October 2021. And we will look forward to welcoming everybody to that event. That's a huge event. We drew over 1,500 delegates at the last show from 53 countries, all flying through our airport, Miami International. So again, that event through the World Strategic Forum, and I want to make sure everyone knows about that, will be held in early October 2021 at the Biltmore. So let's open it up. Let's do a little back and forth. And again, we'll go with Lester. These guys like to really go with each other in terms of responding to stuff. Why don't we talk about some of the things that you're doing in a cooperative way? And there's some really good initiatives, which again, this speaks to the importance of collaboration, communication, and cooperation. And both our airport and our port have been working with, and I recognize Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart in particular. We have a strong congressional delegation here, Frederica Wilson and the fine delegation that represent us in Washington that support all things for our airport and our seaport. And our good friend, Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, has been incredibly helpful to the airport and seaport on several new capital initiatives. Juan or Lester, why don't you talk about some of the things that you're doing together?
So I'll say this, Bill, and you are 100% correct. What our congressman has done for the airport and seaport, and sometimes it doesn't get highlighted, but it has to be highlighted. In fact, recently, we went to DC and spoke to a good congressman, and there was a facility fumigation plant, and immediately there was a move by him and his office to make it happen. And in short due order, the airport and seaport are partnering on a fumigation plan. I'll let Juan give you some details. True partnership. We have the land. The federal government, as a result of his leadership, gave the grant to the seaport, and we're going to build the largest fumigation plant here in Miami-Dade County that's going to help us be able to take care of our produce. Juan, you may want to expand on that.
Oh, absolutely, and thank you, Lester and Bill. That's an incredible point, right? The coordination, the communication between the two departments, and also among many other county departments and agencies. This project, this fumigation project, it all started with some fumigation fees, and the USDA many years ago set out a new schedule of fees, which would have put South Florida at a competitive disadvantage, just by the way that these perishables are fumigated north of the 39th parallel. You'll remember this issue. This goes back that long. So Philly has a tremendous advantage, particularly once the fees escalated. So the congressman he had a thought, and he said, hey, how about if we replicate the infrastructure that they have in Philadelphia and other ports north of the 39th parallel here in Florida? And he fought so hard to create a $92 million allocation, a program where the top 15 container ports that were involved in this type of business could apply and obtain grant funding. And we were successful in obtaining a $44 million grant last year, $33 million for a fumigation / cold storage facility, and $11 million to upgrade one of our container terminals through which the containers will be coming into this facility ultimately. So with Lester, we just chatting one day over at the airport restaurant and said, hey, we have some land. We have some land that we could utilize. So we put together a joint application, and here we are. Very, very fortunate. Other areas of cooperation between the airport and the seaport is not only on the cargo side, we have the air to sea freight packages that have been very successful, but also on the cruise side. During the beginning of the pandemic, well, we've always worked with Leicester and the airport on our passenger side, moving passengers back and forth, making sure that in the event of a weather delay, the airport knew exactly when the buses are leaving the port, etc., to make the experience better for the passenger. But during the pandemic, the issue came about how to transfer crew and how to safely transfer crew, repatriate crew back to their home countries. And this went all the way from March, probably through the middle of end of April, where we had direct routes to a particular location at the airport where they would board their charter flights. And one of the ideas that we have and we've been discussing with Lester is when we restart cruising operations, and we hope that that is very soon, that we, the port, we're looking at getting us an area at the airport, having an office at the airport, having maybe a reception center at the airport. So when those passengers come to MIA, they see a familiar logo, a familiar brand to them, which is Port Miami. And we're even thinking of having some staff over there to greet the passengers, just make sure that they feel comfortable, that they feel safe. Again, reaching out to our passengers who ultimately are it's one of the two large components here at the Port of Miami, which pay our bills, right? So, but yeah, customer service, communication, dialogue, that's what Lester and I always say, right? We don't have to, and we definitely are not. I'll speak for myself. Definitely not the smartest guy in the room, but we want to go out and communicate with everybody, right? And when you talk to everyone and open your arms and say, "Hey, how can we help?" Things tend to work out a little bit.
That's right. And it really is about, again, I call it the team approach.
Yeah.
It is cooperation. It is clear communication, making sure that we understand where we're not only where we are today, but where we want to head. And as I think Lester made the point, as well as I think Juan did as well, you have to spend a lot of time in Washington. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the support of our community, everyone from the Beacon Council to the Greater Miami Chamber and the Miami-Dade Chamber and the Latin Chambers, on and on and on. When we did, and Juan will remember this, when we did the Port Miami Tunnel, and of course the deep dredge, right, Juan? It is, you can't do it yourself.
Two projects, yeah, two projects that we could not, we're handling 3, 4, sometimes 5 post-Panamax ships at the port every week. And I know Roberto mentioned in his opening remarks these huge container vessels, and without the tunnel, we could not be moving the number of passengers that we're moving or that we did in 2019. We would be stuck. We would have an incredible bottleneck at the bridge all the way down to the highway, right? So the tunnel, and definitely a shout out to Chris Hodgkins. My God, we're joined at the hip. We work together, whether there's a storm, whether it's an accident. Chris Hodgkins, the man. Chris Hodgkins himself is on the phone out there, making sure that the wrecker is taking out any truck that was stalled or got into an accident, rolling, making sure the gates are down in the event of a hurricane. Again, it's a communication, the interaction, and as it relates to the tunnel and the dredge, Bill, those two were yours, right? Those
Ours.
two projects happened. No, I mean, of course, we got incredible support from our elected officials, from our Congress. But in terms of the executive that made those two projects happen, it was you. I mean, things are what they are, right? And here we are, right? Thanks to those two projects, we're in a position of leadership among every port here in the United States.
One, I would also, again, like to reemphasize to those listening, to our partners on the call, none of this is possible without great local leadership support. And we have been very, very blessed. I mean, I know that in the latter part of my career, I worked for a number of mayors in my 35 years, but Carlos Jimenez as mayor was incredibly helpful and supportive. He's now headed to Washington as our newly elected congressman, but unbelievably supportive. And to make things happen, you have to work with both Republicans and Democrats. I think Obama had nicknamed me the dredge man every time he'd see me, because all I ever talked to President Obama about was the dredge. So I think he nicknamed me the dredge guy. But that dredge really would not have happened, again, without community support. From Miami-Dade College, the former president, Eduardo Padron, was extremely helpful in that regard. That interaction, that community support for our airport and our port have been instrumental in helping to move these institutions forward. And again, I emphasize, that's why this is so important to bring back this annual State of the Ports, so that our partners and our friends in the community understand what American Airlines is doing and you know, and what Carnival Corporation's up to at the port, and this team of this sense of team. I'm sorry, Wani, go ahead.
No, Billy, I will say, just to reiterate on that, you're always right on the money. Time and time again, we have been asked, right? When we are, we can be in Hamburg, Germany at a CLIA summit. We can be at Sea Trade Europe. We can be anywhere in the world when other ports know what's going on at Port Miami. It's similar with MIA. And they ask us, wow, how are you getting all that done, right? And our answer, and Heidi will tell you this, and Eric and the whole senior management, the reason why is because of the elected officials that we have that support the airport and the seaports plans for growth. You mentioned Carlos, Mayor Jimenez. Not once did the mayor say no to any of these plans. On the contrary, he was actively engaged. Hey, how about this? How about that? Right? And
Right.
The leadership of our board, our chairperson, Audrey Edmondson, and our chair of the Maritime and the Ports Committee, Commissioner Sosa, sponsoring the items. And now we've been talking with our mayor-elect as well, who is, I think, very excited about the airport and the seaport do, Mayor-elect Levine Cava. And without that support, we can propose anything, but it just won't happen. So absolutely, the tunnel happened and the dredge happened, and many other projects, and at the airport, that whole expansion, as a result of the elected leadership that we have here in Miami-Dade County. I know, Lester, I'm sure you.
Lester, you want to add a couple comments before we wind it up here? Lester?
Oh, yeah, so you know, it's important to explain to folks that they're not separate entities. You know, the Miami-Dade County, and not to get too deep into the form of government, but the fact that the county and the same leadership is over so many important components of this community, the airport and the seaport being one of them. You mentioned water and sewer as well too. The decisions that are made at the leadership level, at the elected level, are all taking into account different factors, right? We want to make sure that we don't do something that's good for the airport, but that also hurts the seaport. So all these big departments that have such a critical role are getting feedback and input from their business partners, and then ultimately we're hashing them out at the leadership level with our elected and making decisions that are for the greater good of the residents. So I want to make sure that everyone understands that these are not just words that we're saying, that we'll work together, that I guess that Beacon and the Chamber and the Bureau are all out there getting business, but it all comes together, it's being discussed, and decisions are being made for the benefit of all, not just for one entity over another.
Lester, I want to thank you. Our time is winding up. I want to thank, before I turn it back to our chairman, Roberto Munoz, I want to acknowledge and thank both Lester and Juan again for their agreement and their support in bringing this event back. We're looking forward from the World Trade Center Miami to making this an in-person lunch sometime next year in 2021. It's been a great opportunity. I apologize to everyone on the call. We don't really have enough time to open it up for question and answer. Something like this, we didn't even get into any of the real detail. This could literally go for a few hours, a couple of hours. But I will tell you, I've been out of public service for a few years now, but because of my love of infrastructure and my love of logistics and trade, and I keep engaged and involved with not just Port Miami, but all the ports, all 15 ports in Florida through the Florida Ports Council. In prior years, I used to chair that organization as well. And So I like to keep engaged with what's going on and to volunteer. I guess part of the value and the beauty of getting older and having some free time is you can volunteer for things like the World Trade Center and the World Strategic Forum and the Underline and all the other things that we work on, which again, I think are all positive and good for our community. Roberto, I'm going to turn it back to you as our chairman. And again, my thanks, Lester, to you and to Juan. Love you boys, and take care and continue to do the good work. Okay. Roberto?
Thank you, Bill. Bill, this is great. And I want to tell you that this is the best that we can be. Miami's growing all of our talent. Our game in the long run is to make sure that talent is homegrown, that it stays here, that we're able to develop it correctly. We are the city of today, but we're also the city of the future. It's very difficult to grow a city like ours and still maintain the globality that we have. We are a prime melting pot, a very diverse community. We exemplify all that is diversity, and I think that's really the key to why Miami is so successful. You know, I will say that I am a first vice chair of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, and that in 1907, the Miami Board of Trade was developed. And that 1907 Board of Trade, which was the precedent to the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, its goal was to build a harbor. That harbor ended up being Dodge Island. That island today is Port of Miami, and some of the best views in the world from that port as well, because as I mentioned before, while it was not in the center of town perhaps many years ago, both the port and the airport are really the closest port airport in a city that you could visit around the world. It makes it very convenient to do business. The port and airport have allowed international banking to take hold, which is one of our great sectors here in Miami. Also, fintech has also taken hold because we have a great port and airport. We continue to grow a lot of biosector activity, which will allow us to, again, gain even more foothold. Our medical is among the best in the world. Our Miami-Dade Beacon Council works very hard to make sure that they're out there bringing in new business and identifying business opportunities. And they've been very hard at work in assisting our community during pandemic. Our Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, with its board and history, have always been the forefront of economic issues, as well as general issues affecting our community, bringing them to the forefront and then allowing solutions to be put forth, and then public or governmental activities that occur through that have allowed change to occur, whether it's workforce housing or whether it's resiliency or in general education. So we are very blessed, I will say, to have the market that we're in. We are great leaders in Miami that are working very hard. Juan, Lester, your great work in a very difficult time. This is when leaders become leaders. This is when leaders show their strength. Juan, it's amazing that your cargo tonnage is only down 4.8% year over year. That's an amazing statement. The Miami International Airport continues to have a very vibrant trade. All the flowers, they're still coming in. I'm still buying fresh flowers for my wife every week. She's so happy about that. But we have the #1 flower industry in the United States. And that's driven by the Miami International Airport because they come in fresh every day, among the thousands of other products that come. So with that, the World Trade Center is a leader. The World Trade Center is an organization run by Ivan Barrios, Alice Arcona, who has worked very hard for many years in our international trade. And we collaborate with the Greater Miami Chamber. We collaborate with the Beacon Council. We collaborate with all partners in our region. And with that, I want to thank you. Fantastic. Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, everyone. I know everybody's time is busy, and Lester and Juan, thank you so much. The World Trade Center Miami really appreciates all your support, and thank you through all your support throughout the many years. Everybody stay safe and have a great weekend.